Stacey Abrams is the perfect embodiment of political swamp sleaze. Wherever and whenever there's a dirty buck to be made through underhanded, backdoor dealings, you can bet that Stacey Abrams will be at the head of the line. Luckily, her crookedness has been reined in by election losses. But that doesn't mean that she can't be unfairly maligned. Recent news that Stacey pocketed over $1 billion in federal money has stoked a lot of scorn of Stacey, but the truth tells a different story. And I'm not saying the money was spent wisely or that Stacey's hands are totally clean, but we owe it to ourselves to get the story straight. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With cold, blunt analysis cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's time for the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
Okay, so Stacey Abrams was interviewed by Chris Hayes of MSNBC, and he's going to run interference for her in the strongest way possible. But let's go ahead and listen in.
One of the ironies of the attack on you, and I'm going to play what he did, was that my understanding is the program at the source of this whole thing is a program to lower costs for people. Do I have that top line correct?
You have it absolutely right.
Okay, so I'm gonna play what he had to say, and then I'm gonna ask you to explain what the program is that was such an obvious, ludicrous laugh line for the Republicans.
Yeah, we're not biased. No.
Take a listen.
$1.9 billion to recently created decarbonization of homes committee, headed up, and we know she's involved. Just at the last moment, the money was passed over by a woman named Stacey Abrams. Have you ever heard of her?
Notice he said headed up, and then later, we know she's involved. Well, if she headed it up, obviously she would be involved. So which one is it? And the truth is, he's not being very truthful here.
Okay, so what is this organization? What is your relation to it, and what does it do?
In 2023 and 2024, I led a program called Vitalizing DeSoto. We worked in a tiny town in South Georgia to demonstrate that by replacing energy inefficient appliances with efficient appliances, you can lower your cost. And in fact, we accomplished that. For 75% of the community, they got appliances that are lowering their bills right now.
Gee, I'm glad that we have her to come in and demonstrate that if you replace old appliances with more energy efficient ones, you can actually save money on your utility bill. Now, who in the hell would have ever thought that would happen? Of course, replacing old appliances with energy efficient models lowers energy costs. You don't have to go out and buy all new appliances for people to know that. You could look at the actual kilowatt hour ratings on the appliances and do a comparison and calculate exactly how much you're going to save. This is not rocket science. There was no need to do a demonstration project. You have about 50 homes, and believe it or not, that's about how many they did, 50 homes. You have about 50 homes. You can go in and survey them on their existing appliances and then calculate exactly how much they would save if they did change their appliances. There was no need to go and buy them new ones. And more about this little town in a moment. But if that was the purpose of your project, to demonstrate lower energy bills, then that's not good. That makes you look really bad, and it calls into question whether there were other motives for doing this. So there had to be a different reason for this, and she's not telling you.
We had one woman who saw her electric bill cut in half from $180 to $98. That's what we delivered. And based on that program, a coalition of organizations, famous organizations, came together and said to the EPA, if we can do this here, we can do this for millions more Americans. Let us invest the money of America in lowering the cost for Americans. And the EPA said, okay, great, go for it.
Okay, so you're trying to tell me that the EPA was not convinced that if you replace appliances with more energy efficient ones, that you'd save money on utility bills. They were not convinced of that. It took you going into a small town in Georgia and replacing the appliances in 50 homes to convince the EPA that this would work. So, right off the bat, something is fishy. Now, the whole idea that the 1.9 or 1.29 or whatever billions of dollars went to her, it's absurd. That didn't happen. Okay, her little project was over before they applied for the grant. Now, I can't say that she didn't receive any money off that grant. She claims she didn't. I don't have any evidence that she did. Furthermore, it doesn't look like Trump or Musk or Vance know whether she received any money from it. Otherwise, he would have said so. Notice he said, well, she headed it. We think that she's involved. I mean, come on. You have to follow the money trail first, then you accuse people. So let's go ahead and read an article here. Revitalizing DeSoto, small Sumter County community undergoing historic makeover. This is the little town in Georgia that Stacey Abrams dumped a whole bunch of money into that has got so many people hot under the collar. Let me go ahead and skip down to here. Thanks to a landmark program brought to the community of DeSoto and championed by two-time Georgia gubernatorial candidate Stacey Abrams, DeSoto is in the early stages of becoming a showcase town that could dramatically impact the greening of the country and also open politicians and policymakers' eyes to the reality that the salt-of-the-earth citizens of small town and rural America do indeed matter. I don't know how this project does that, but okay. Dubbed Vitalizing DeSoto, the program's goals include transforming the small community 32 miles north of Albany by weatherizing as many of the 116 homes in the community whose owners choose to participate in providing one of these energy-efficient appliance upgrades, an HVAC heat pump, a heat pump water heater, or an induction range. I'm going to tell you, I don't think there are 116 homes in DeSoto. It only has a population of 124. And according to the U.S. Census, it has about 70 homes. That makes a lot more sense. And Stacey said that they upgraded about 75% of them. So it looks like they basically affected around 50 homes. We selected Milwaukee, Gresham, Oregon, Tulsa, Oklahoma. And I live near Tulsa, and I never heard about this. And since I wanted to make sure this project reached into Georgia, we selected East Point and DeSoto. So she used her influence to bring money to a particular state, huh? Okay. We felt it was important to include South Georgia because of the weather, the impact of climate change, and the challenges in that region that include issues like housing costs. And I'll show you another reason why they chose DeSoto here in a little bit. And most important, there are the people. Who most often feel ignored, like no one will talk to them or about them. I talked with Mayor James Cutts and came down to visit. He was all in on the project. Well, I would think so. It's basically free money. But Abrams and Rewiring America, a nonprofit whose goal is to help homes, businesses, and communities go electric, to reduce the emissions that cause climate change, but also to lower people's monthly bills and improve the health and comfort of their home, had special plans for DeSoto. Using philanthropic support and up to $5,000 per house incentives from Georgia Power, they changed the game plan as it impacted the small community. So up to $5,000 per house. These other cities are more or less pilot programs. We're doing 5 to 10 homes in each city. But we looked at DeSoto and said, can we do the entire town? Well, you didn't. You only did about 75% according to you. And it's a tiny town. Again, about 70 homes. And so Atlanta area and local contractors moved into the community this week en masse, scheduling inspections and times that the contractors can begin the transformation of, right now, the residences of 80 homeowners who have so far signed up for the program. I don't know how they get over 100 homes in a town of 124 people. And again, the U.S. Census says it's closer to 70. So I don't know if there's anything up with that. And so it goes on to talk about Mildred Carter, whose hot water heater broke down. She didn't have any way of making hot water, and now she can. So I guess this demonstration project showed that if a person has a broken hot water heater and you replace it, they can get hot water. It's good that we have programs like this to prove these things. Otherwise, we're just theorizing. And this person here, Augustine Sanchez, had a small window unit that cools off one room in the house. Gee, that's terrible. Come to think of it, that was kind of the way I grew up.
I went to the meeting that Stacey Abrams held at City Hall, and folks told me I should do this. I'm sure glad I signed up.
I'm having a very hard time believing that she got a central air conditioning unit installed for $5,000. Just doesn't sound right. That air conditioning will be supplied by a heat pump, updating Billings' heating system for winter as well, giving him one efficient system to maintain and likely lower monthly bills. So let me get this straight. They installed a heat pump to centrally air condition the entire house for $5,000. I'm a little skeptical of that.
Okay, so finally, this is transitional to the people of DeSoto, and it can be replicated. It can happen at DeSotos all over this country.
Sure, if you dump enough money into them. I mean, there's no doubt that you can go in and replace all the appliances in every home in a city if you have enough money. I mean, it is possible. We're looking at almost $500,000 for this tiny little town, and well over $500,000 if you believe that they did it for over 100 houses. So therein lies the problem: scalability. You took a very tiny town and you managed to go in and you dumped a whole bunch of money in it, and guess what? Yeah, everybody's utility bills were lower. Of course. As I said before, we already know that if you replace poorly operating appliances with newer, better operating ones, they'll operate better. There was no need to prove that. I just checked the cost for doing that in my town, $175 million. And I don't live in a huge town. So where does the money come from? And above all, what did we really demonstrate with this project? But now let's take a closer look at DeSoto. Gee, I wonder why it was chosen. So let's go ahead and play the promotional video on Rewiring America's webpage.
I love DeSoto, Georgia.
Birds chirping, you can hear tractors running, it's country.
As we're watching the video, perhaps you can point out to me one reason why you think DeSoto was chosen for this home improvement giveaway by Stacey Abrams. And no, I don't think the chirping of cardinals or the roar of tractors had anything to do with it.
It's a great town to live in and raise your kids.
I love the country setting, and, people are friendly here.
But we're small, but we have a lot of love here in DeSoto, Georgia. Rewiring America, this project is so good. This is history.
Each home was eligible for either a new stove, a heat pump system, or a hot water heat.
So many times, people come in and offer things, and it get dropped along the way. Small communities like DeSoto get overlooked a lot.
I never thought it would happen, actually, but it's happening.
A lot of people on, fixed incomes and things like that in this community.
I think this program provides an opportunity for changes to occur to improve the lifestyle.
I'm glad, that a program did come through and y'all picked DeSoto.
Well, DeSoto must be a pretty peaceful place. Very relaxing, very comfortable. It's so comfortable that you tend to forget things. So back in around 2010, the state of Georgia called and said, hey, how are those elections coming along? And DeSoto went,
Elections? Oh, elections. We forgot.
oh, you think I'm joking? Really? Okay. Town forgot council elections. Officials in a Georgia municipality said the state secretary of state informed them they forgot to hold elections for 2 city council posts last year. City of DeSoto officials said no one on the council raised the issue of elections for the 2 seats during the 2009 meetings, and no one realized the election was supposed to have been held until the state threatened the city with penalties. Councilwoman Addie Cutts, the mayor in that last promotional video, his last name was Cutts too. Interesting. said the Georgia Secretary of State's office told the council it will face violations, including failing to publish public notice 30 days prior to the election and failing to appoint an election superintendent if an election is not held by the new March deadline. And she says,
"We just forgot it. That's the only thing that happened. We just forgot it."
oh boy. Now, it's a town of only 124 people, so obviously they don't get the pick of the best politicians in the state to run their city, but whatever. You would think that the council people would say, I was elected on a 2-year term, and by golly, it's been 2 years. I think we're supposed to hold an election. Who knows? One thing is clear. The $2 billion grant that got Trump and Elon Musk all worked up did not go to revitalizing DeSoto. That project was finished before that grant was even submitted. So who got the grant? Well, it's this organization called Power Forward Communities. According to Stacey Abrams, they were inspired by Stacey's project in Georgia and the other ones to put a grant application in with the EPA. They're the ones that received the $2 billion. Now here is a press release about that money. Fact sheet. Power Forward Communities announces more than $500 million in investments to lower housing costs and utility bills for families nationwide. And it says here over $100 million will be invested in rural communities. Power Forward, a coalition of 5 of the most trusted nonprofits in the nation, that includes enterprise community partners. Oh yeah, we just know we can trust them. Habitat for Humanity, Local Initiatives Support Corporation, never heard of them, Rewiring America, and United Way, announced today its first wave of major investments from a $2 billion grant from the EPA to help lower housing costs and utility bills for American families. Today's announcement commits $539 million of the $2 billion EPA grant. These commitments will expand and preserve affordable housing, improve air quality, and blah, blah, blah. And it says here, every American deserves to live in a home with clean air and without utility bills that break the bank. Well, I don't know about every American. I know some Americans that don't deserve that.
We're proud that the projects announced today will help families nationwide access cost-saving upgrades.
Yeah, okay. So we go on down, and they list some of the projects. Now, I don't have the time to go through all of them, so I went and picked the first one. And this one occurred in Clinton, Iowa. And it says here, in Clinton, Iowa, energy efficiency upgrades for the adapted reuse of a historic hotel in rural Iowa will transform the property into a 53-home affordable housing development, receiving $7 million in financing and leveraging $15 million in additional public and private capital. This project will include energy efficiency upgrades and the introduction of geothermal energy. My first reaction was geothermal in Iowa? Doesn't seem real practical, but okay, I mean, I'm not an expert in that area, so fine, And the other issue is you have $7 million in financing, $15 million in additional funds for $22 million to transform an old hotel into a 53-home affordable housing development. Okay, so that means that each unit, in the end, cost this project $415,000. First of all, I don't even know how you convert a hotel into an affordable housing development. I mean, what does that even look like? 53 homes? And $415,000 a pop. And I'm thinking, shoot, for $415,000, you could have just simply built all new homes. The other thing is, I can't find this hotel. I looked everywhere. There's supposedly a historic hotel in Clinton, Iowa, and I can't find it. It's not listed in the historical registry. I went to Clinton, Iowa's wiki page, and there's no mention of it. Well, here's the architecture part, and they list a bunch of buildings. None of them are hotels. I mean, it must exist. I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I can't find it. So I'm wondering, really, how historic is this place? And that is important because they could have just bulldozed it and built 53 homes for $415,000 a pop. But is that realistic? $415,000 to build a new home in Clinton, Iowa. So I looked at that figure and I thought, maybe the houses in that area are just very expensive. I mean, Clinton, Iowa doesn't sound like a very expensive place, and who knows? So I went ahead and drove on over to realtor.com, and holy crap, it's like going back in time. The one on the left is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, 1,600 square foot on a pretty tiny lot, okay? $129,000? I mean, really? Here we have a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,300 square foot home for $89,000. And a 4-bedroom, 3.5 bath, 4,900 square foot home for $280,000. Holy moly. I'm living in the wrong area. So the price of housing obviously isn't a problem here. But what to make of all this? Well, first of all, Stacey Abrams clearly has a very strong connection to Rewiring America. In fact, it looks as if she has joined their team as senior counsel. But did they even have to do that? There are already rebates available for anybody who wants to upgrade their utilities. We have the Energy Star rebate finder. The IRS gives a home improvement credit. And so if the U.S. government really wants to make these energy upgrades available to the public, it doesn't have to go through all this. It can just simply offer a rebate program. It doesn't give you $5,000 a home. Why? Because it's extremely expensive. Again, tiny little DeSoto, 124 people, would have cost $500,000. And that raises another question. Again, the U.S. Census says that there are only 72 housing units in DeSoto, but Stacey claims that they signed up initially 80 for the renovations. So how many homes were really renovated? Let's say 100. That means there are 28 more homes that were claimed to have been renovated beyond the number of homes that are actually in the town. So I don't know what happened there. Perhaps the U.S. Census has it wrong. But that doesn't make any sense because they claim there's 124 people living in the town. There's no disagreement there. So how could you have 116 homes for 124 people? 72 sounds about right. So are they claiming to have renovated more homes than they really did? And if so, what happened to that money? And it's not a small amount. $5,000 a home, 20 homes, $100,000. However, we should remember that the DeSoto project was not involved in the $2 billion grant, okay? The hotel renovation in Clinton was, and it just doesn't make any sense to me. $22 million to renovate a hotel for 53 homes is just weird. I just don't know how that works. And at $415,000 a pop, I just get the impression somehow that somebody is making off with a lot of money there. I could be wrong. I would like to find out more about it, but I can't find anything. So are Trump and Musk being fair to Stacey Abrams? No. They're trying to imply that she made off with $2 billion. Didn't happen. However, for Stacey to come in and say,
Hey, this was a great project we did in DeSoto because we demonstrated that you could lower operating costs if you upgrade your equipment.
Gee, thanks. I'm sure that was worth $500,000 to prove. At any rate, like my video, subscribe to my channel, and if you find out anything about that hotel, hey, let me know. I'd like to hear about it.